Money in the Bank match is likely WWE's best modern creation. Starting at WrestleMania before gaining so much popularity it was granted a pay-per-view of its own, it remains a fan favorite even if it has been watered down the last couple of years. Baron Corbin and Braun Strowman's runs with the briefcase weren't exactly award-winning concepts. In fact, they pretty much sucked. Even though we still refer to the Big Four, you'd probably put this event above the likes of Survivor Series, and we all hope it will live up to expectation each and every year. When it doesn't, there's a real sense of disappointment. It certainly hasn't always been perfect, however, as we're about to show. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 things WWE wants you to forget about Money in the Bank. Number 10, in 2014, the Money in the Bank match was better than the World Title match. We had two Money in the Bank matches in 2014, one as you'd expect, and the other for the Unified World Championship that was currently vacant because Daniel Bryan had been forced to give it up through injury. It meant the pay-per-view was proper packed as John Cena, Kane, Roman Reigns, Cesaro, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, Alberto Del Rio, and Sheamus fought for the biggest prize in the game, while Seth Rollins, Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, Rob Van Dam, and Jack Swagger went after a future shot at said title. As we all know, if you are any kind of entertainment or sports company, you want your best content to go on last, and while WWE tried this, they failed. The 8-way scrap wasn't bad and also saw Cena win his 15th World Championship. The so-called undercard war was far better, as well as the ongoing storyline with Seth Rollins who had screwed over the Shield. Kofi Kingston went above and beyond to ensure no one would forget he'd participated. It was brilliant. Really, the two just came together to create a great event all round, but I bet if you were asked WWE to pick one, they'd default to the main event just because that's the way. Not true though, they'd been outdone even before getting to the ring. Number 9, Daniel Bryan and CM Punk play second fiddle to AJ Lee. Even though Daniel Bryan had fallen away from the World Heavyweight title picture in 2012 after losing to Sheamus at Extreme Rules, WWE still decided they had something with him and they wanted to take advantage of it. This is why they put him as the number 1 contender for CM Punk's WWE Championship, which gave us a fantastic match at Over the Limit. Go and watch it now on that old WWE network. You'll have fun. They would go at it again at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, although now a lot had changed. AJ Lee had become involved and been dumped by Bryan before going on to develop an infatuation with Punk. Given they were going to fight it out, it only made sense that she was the special guest referee in the no DQ contest. What ended up happening though was that Lee stole the show, or at least took center stage. Bryan and Punk still tore it up because I'm not sure they're capable of anything else, but the focus was clearly on AJ. She showed massive favoritism to Punk, who went on to win, but fans who were hoping for a more focused encounter were left a bit confused. This was more story than wrestling, which is good or bad depending on your personal taste. I don't think this was the idea, mind, hence why it makes the list. Number 8, James Ellsworth makes history. Happening in 2017, this was bad at the time and now hasn't aged well at all. But it was the year where WWE finally greenlit a women's Money in the Bank match and pushed it as something truly historic. It was treated as just as important as the men's version, and the revolution that the company had been talking about for so long was finally taking fruition. It was a nice moment, or it was until the finish. Clearly not seeing what would happen, James Ellsworth, a man, was booked to climb the ladder on behalf of Carmella and just throw her the briefcase. It was tough not to leave a bad taste in the mouth because for all intents and purposes, a male had won the first ever female version of the Money in the Bank. Even if everybody involved was fine with this, it's still dumb. Sometimes you just gotta keep things simple. It rightfully pissed off the fans as any heat was transferred away from Carmella and onto the company itself. It undermined any good intentions, and many people questioned how WWE could be so short-sighted. They must have agreed because a week later, Carmella was stripped of her prize and then won it again properly in a do-over 7 days after that. Nowadays, WWE just uses footage from this second match for obvious reasons, and really it was a stupid decision all around. If history is being made, let that be the selling point. Keep the shenanigans to a minimum. Number 7, Curtis Axel runs in during the main event. Money in the Bank 2013's ladder match was for the WWE title with the rule that only former champions could compete. That meant we had quite the lineup as Randy Orton, Rob Van Dam, Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, Christian, CM Punk all threw their names into the hat. When it came to Punk though, he was in an odd position. He'd returned a month prior as a face but was still teamed with Paul Heyman even though he was a heel, and had a new relationship with Curtis Axel. That instantly led to Punk and Axel disliking each other, with Heyman trying to play peacemaker, and it was never going to last. It was here that it ended too, as Heyman turned on his former friend by smashing a ladder into his head and busting him open. It did allow us to get that Brock Lesnar Punk feud, which I still love to this day, so there's no doubt it worked, but it also gave us Ryback Ryback versus Punk, but at least that resulted in a very interesting podcast discussion. What we all forget, which WWE is likely pleased about, is that before Paul showed his true colours, Curtis Axel did indeed run in during the main event to attack Punk and put him at an even bigger disadvantage. The thing is, if you've just found that out right now and then see where Axel is on the card today, well, it doesn't add up, and to be honest, it didn't really back then either. Curtis was always in a will he won't he position that ultimately went nowhere. Go back in time, we'd probably change this up. Number 6, Ellsworth does it again. Despite the first association with James Ellsworth and the Women's Money in the Bank winding everybody up, WWE thought it would be a good idea to do it again a year after. Because why not, eh? This time wasn't any worse, but it was just as bad and took out a fan favourite which just made people roll their eyes even more. The short version went like this. During all the fallout from WrestleMania 34, when Charlotte ended Asuka's undefeated streak and held on to her SmackDown title, Carmella cashed in a week later. There was nothing wrong with that on paper, but why did we sacrifice Asuka's run if Flair was about to lose her championship anyway? That just took them both out. The saving grace surely would be when the Empress got her revenge against the lady who says she's made of money. You're wrong again. The two did collide at Money in the Bank for the belt, but this did not go as expected. Not only was Asuka asked to sell her ass off, but eventually she lost because of a distraction outside of the ring. Somebody had dressed up like her, which to be fair was confusing, but when it turned out to be Ellsworth behind the mask, it was just too much, mostly because it was rubbish. Once again, he was sticking his oar into something that nobody wanted, and that was even more awkward when James was embroiled in a scandal over allegedly sending sexual image to underage fans a couple of months afterwards. Now that is just awful all around. Number 5, Kane's big surprise. No one really thought Kane would win the Money in the Bank in 2010. If anything, a young up-and-comer would be given the nod, as the bout had always served as a great way to start somebody's push. Apparently I'm wrong though, because it did indeed go to the big red machine. Don't get me wrong, I love Kane, but it just felt like it was happening a bit too late. Little did we know the evening was just getting started. In a company first, Kane also cashed in on the same night after World Heavyweight Champion Rey Mysterio had defended his title against Jack Swagger. The American was pissed that he lost, so he jumped Mysterio before babyface Kane chased him off. He had a change of heart, however, as he then turned on the luchador and beat him for his prize. No one was ready for that. Despite being in the company for 13 years at this point, this was two of the biggest wins of his career, and somehow they came on the same show. When all was said and done though, especially if you look at the current landscape in 2019, picking someone new to take center stage would probably have been a better idea. Number 4, you call that a finish? Part 1, 2013. Dolph Ziggler's Money in the Bank cash-in and subsequent World Heavyweight Championship win over Alberto Del Rio was met with pure crowd joy. Dolph finally looked like he was on his way to superstardom, but an errant kick from Jack Swagger gave him a concussion and put him on the shelf for 6 weeks. That's just bad luck. Ziggler would return at Payback in 2013 and lost the belt back to Del Rio in a match that led to a double turn. The show-off got his rematch at Money in the Bank, and the now good guy was riding a wave of support. The bout was also pretty damn good, with Del Rio trying to go after Dolph's head, thinking it would put him down for good. Bit nasty, but hey ho. Unfortunately, all of Ziggler's fighting spirit didn't get him anywhere. After the challenger blocked a knee strike from Del Rio, AJ Lee, who was Dolph's girlfriend, got in the ring and hit Alberto with the title. That caused a DQ, which not only annoyed Dolph, but the entire crowd as well. Even though the finish played into Dolph and AJ splitting up on Raw, it was still a bad way to end Ziggler's flirtation with the gold. Number 3, you call that a finish? Part 2, 2015. Back in 2015, Seth Rollins was the WWE champion, even if WWE was booking him like anything but. He kept fluking wins as opposed to being dominant, as was notable at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view a few months earlier, where Dean Ambrose had seemingly won the championship before the result was changed after a late DQ call. Dusty Rhodes is smiling down from above us. To try and make this right, a ladder match was signed for, you guessed it, Money in the Bank. They're so damn good, the pair went on to have an absolute classic which went almost 36 minutes. You don't usually see fights go that long in WWE, so it's fair to say that the universe was more than invested. Rollins and Ambrose went outside the ring, used chairs, tables and anything they could get their hands on before it was time to climb the ladder itself. Then it happened. Even though both men grabbed the belt and pulled it down, they fell as soon as they had it in their grasp. Problem was, Ambrose lost his grip, which meant Rollins was still the guy on a technicality. It made Seth look like a right goof, and once again underlined that while he had the championship, he wasn't really a champion. Number 2, Layla vs. Summer Rae. WWE had failed to capitalize on the Fandango boom by mid-2014. The character was so daft there was potential to do something with him. The company knew that too, but that didn't stop them from bringing him into one of the worst storylines of the year. It started when the dancer replaced his valet, Summer Rae, with Layla. This annoyed Summer because of course it did, and she made it known this wasn't going to go down without a fight. It all led to a clash at Money in the Bank in 2014, where naturally Fandango was the special referee. Even though it only lasted 3 minutes, it was just, well, it didn't really go to plan. The real problem was it made no sense. The whole angle had told us that despite all of the above, Fandango still had feelings for Rae. Because she knew this, she was going to try and exploit it. But when Layla kicked Summer and covered her, Mr. Borum just made the pin. There was no payoff to the narrative, and it was probably forgotten even before Raw had started the next night. Number 1, one of the best shows in company history, thanks to CM Punk. WrestleMania 17, SummerSlam 2002, Mania 19. Everybody has a favorite WWE pay-per-view, and one that would also join these ranks is Money in the Bank 2011. The 2 stipulation matches themselves are brilliant, with Daniel Bryan and Alberto Del Rio coming out on top, and the clash between Randy Orton and Christian for the World Heavyweight title also kicks ass. All of that was nothing compared to the main event, however, which saw CM Punk take on John Cena for the WWE belt. This had all been brought about as Punk's contract was coming to an end, which brought to life the very cool story that if he won, he was going to leave the company as the champ. Cena himself acknowledged this over and over and accepted the pressure was on him. He was fighting on behalf of the whole promotion. It lived up to expectations and then some, and when CM scored the win in front of a rabid hometown crowd, everybody went ballistic. It was drama, in-ring action, and storytelling at its damn finest. The problem today is that Punk left the company under controversial circumstances in 2014, and ever since then he's not been in WWE's good books. In fact, from that point of view, he may as well not have even existed. There was even a picture going around the internet way back when of a CM Punk poster at WWE HQ that had a post-it note stuck over his face. For as long as the Money in the Bank is around though, this will be talked about, just not from a WWE perspective. They would rather everyone just forgot.